Today we're talking to you about a 60 micro unit apartment building here on the east side of Austin that incorporates a couple cool features, including a co-housing concept, the opportunity for short-term rental, and we're going to tell you all about it. I'm David Shapiro with the Shapiro Group, here with my colleague Lee Abraham. And this property we've titled 6 in Chicon, based on the intersection it's at, and we'll get more into the location here. We're sitting across the street from it underneath the Arrive Hotel at Soric Barbershop and Menswear, and you can see the building right over Lee's shoulder. Let's talk about the process if somebody's interested in this project. So first thing is reach out to us. Contact info can be found here. And if you're interested in submitting an offer, we can talk about that. If you want more information like our pro forma, we have an NDA you can sign so you can see all the numbers. We have a property management company that specializes in short-term rentals, has a really great track record, and they put together their pro forma on what they think the expenses are going to look like, the income, and they give us an NOI, and that's where we've come up with value for the property. The project is currently under construction. It's only a couple months away from being completed. You can see we've topped out. We've got some stucco siding going along one of the sides. They've got windows starting to go in, and the project is really moving along. We broke ground February of last year, so it's really, the pace that this project has gone up has been really fast. The advantage of working with a really specialized, great commercial contractor that's done an amazing job on this property. Initially, the project was designed as an apartment building with a co-housing concept where small format units that have limited amenities within the unit, but there's 2 communal kitchens, there's a communal living room with laundry, and it's really meant to foster community. Well, we got a lot of interest from short-term rental operators, companies that want to just sign a master lease on the building, other companies that want to do a partnership, and we had several LOIs from those companies, and it got us thinking that, oh, maybe this property is better positioned as a short-term rental asset. And that's what we've deemed as the highest and best use here. And it's, works really well because of the small format units and because primarily of the location, which is incredible. It's at the corner of Main and Main in East Austin, between one of the most popular bars, 2 of the most popular restaurants, and really just so walkable. The walk score is off the charts, close to the metro. So that's really what makes this location pretty amazing. And it's always just hustling and bustling, things going on in the neighborhood.
I think one of the other key things to point out with the location is that the zoning allows for that short-term rental use. And so a lot of times when folks are thinking about getting into short-term rental, it's not so easy in Austin given the current environment with the permits that are required. So this is really kind of a unicorn property that checks all the boxes. Is it feasible? Is it legal? All those type of things.
Yeah, and that's, if you're making a big investment like this in a city, you want to make sure you're doing it all above board. You don't want to be trying to skirt the rules around short-term rentals. And it's very clear what the rules are. If you are a true short-term rental building, you would go get a Type 3 license, which allows for up to 25% of the building to be a short-term rental. Now, this is in an area that's zoned for hotels as well.
Right.
So you can go get a hotel permit and pretty much do the entire building.
Right.
The only limit there is that in order to get 60 units, we have 6 affordable units. So those 6 have to stay as long-term rentals, but the remaining 54 can be operated as short-term rentals. And that's how the pro forma is worked out.
Right.
That's how the short-term rental operators understand it and are still willing to lease the entire building. The short-term rental agreement can work in a couple different ways. We have interest from companies that just want to lease the entire building so the owner could get a flat rate and it would be higher than if they were to long-term lease the entire building. Plus the short-term rental operator is handling management, so it's a little bit less of a hassle for the owner. There's also an opportunity if they want a little bit more upside, willing to take on a little bit more risk of sharing in that revenue with the short-term rental operator. So there's a couple different ways that they could set this up. We haven't signed any agreements, so this is up to the future owner to decide how they want to operate the building. And if they just like long-term rentals and they want to buy this as an apartment building and keep it as 12-month leases, they have that option as well. There's nothing precluding them from doing that. Or maybe they want to operate it on their own. Maybe they want to put half the building, they pick by floor and say, hey, we want to do these 3 floors as long-term rentals and these 3 as short-term rentals and do some sort of a mix. That's totally fine too. We're giving the owner the flexibility by being able to purchase this prior to CO and us starting to lease it up. Because here in the coming months, we will probably have to start leasing it up, and then that's going to limit the owners, future owners' options on what they can do right away. So here's a little bit of a zoomed out look at the location. We've got the new Whole Foods on the east side, which is, you know, walking distance for me. It's certainly an easy Uber or bike ride from here. Plaza Saltillo, and you can see just across 35 is downtown Convention Center, Rainy Street. So there's a ton within a quick bike ride or a walk from here. And if we zoom in a little bit to the more micro neighborhood, you can see just a handful of the restaurants and bars that are within walking distance. This is just a small number of what's available in this location. If you're not familiar with this area, I would recommend coming down here, walking around on a Saturday, Sunday, and just getting a feel for the energy and the vibes and how much is going on. It's a really cool part of town. It's one of my favorites and totally worth coming to check out. This shot, you can see a rendering of the building. And right here is Whistler's. On this side is Via 313, arguably the best pizza in town. Suerte, one of my favorite Mexican restaurants. This building here looks like it's being renovated to be turned into a bar. We got office over here across the street. And then this is the Arrive Hotel, which we're sitting under in Soric Barbershop and Menswear. We have Lazarus right here, really popular spot for tacos, beers, and co-working. And that's just, again, a handful of the spots just within this block. That's what's available, which is pretty cool. So really amazing location. The future owner of this property has a unique opportunity to own in such an amazing location. I could see this being a really great fit for a family office. They want to own on 6th Street in Austin, something that they can own for generations. And one great thing about this property for somebody like that is the construction type. This is all concrete and steel construction, which is going to last longer. We did that because it allowed us to get 6 floors. There's only 8 inches needed between floors, whereas on a stick-built wood construction project, you would need 14 inches between stories. So that allowed us to get a whole nother floor of the building, so it's 6 stories instead of a lot of the neighboring buildings around here are only 5 with the height restrictions that the zoning has. But that also creates just a higher quality product and makes for lower insurance rates because there's no combustible materials. So there's a lot of real benefits for somebody that's looking at this as a generational asset. One thing that's cool that somebody could do, I was thinking if I were to buy this, is taking one of the units and having a pied-à-terre. There's a really cool unit on I think it's going to be the 3rd floor that's going to have a balcony that's pretty unique that somebody could take. There's parking below. Somebody could take off a parking spot and say, this is owners parking only, and have their dedicated parking on 6th Street. I just think it's a really cool asset that's going to be cash flowing from day one here on 6th Street. I mean, that's pretty hard to find, and something that's going to continue to appreciate. Rents are going to continue to go up as the city continues to grow. And if you look at this neighborhood, I mean, a lot of the parcels are committed, whether it's to a building that's already been put up or there's long-term leases in place from tenants. So there's not a ton of opportunity for somebody to come in at this point and develop something like this. And even if they wanted to, I mean, the things that the developer went through to get to this stage, I mean, it was like at least a 2-year process going through site plan review. Now with the city being so slow and backed up, it's probably even longer. I mean, it's a battle every day on these types of projects with the city trying to get things done and push through. So the fact that it's already complete, looking great, a really quality build from a great commercial contractor. This is a deal that's on the smaller side for this contractor. They're usually doing much larger projects, so they are very well equipped to have handled this, and that's why we chose them. Great project and product for somebody that's looking to own a generational asset.
And you mentioned the 6 floors versus 5 floors. When we look at the financials, that really does come into play because you're generating more revenue per site. You know, we're talking about the parcel right now. So it's
and people look at this site and they're like, you got 60 units in there?
Right.
And part of that is we do have an extra floor. We did the smaller format, and that's what allowed us to do that. Plaza Saltillo is the metro stop, one from downtown. So if we look here, and I'll just do the zoomed out one first. So here you can see the downtown location of the metro, and then we have the Plaza Saltillo, which is the first stop, and then we're a 5-minute bike ride right here. And these dots, you can see the list of food and drinks and residential and hotels and by different colors in this area. So very dense area. But this Plaza Saltillo, if we go back one slide, is a really cool development. Home of Fader Fort for those of you OG Austinites that love South by. So we were a little bit sad to see this location to get removed, But the result was this amazing development that has a lot of cool stuff in it. So restaurants and some bar-y type restaurants as well. Whole Foods and Target are there, which is great for the neighborhood because there was really no really solid grocery store in this part of town. And again, this is very close to the location. As we zoom out, you can see the full length of the metro line with Project Connect that's underway. They're designing it right now. The metros are going to get expanded, and that's pretty exciting for an area like this that already has density and is going to see some benefits from the expanded metros. Let's talk about the size of the units. They're micro units, which means they're in the 350 square foot range. They go from 260 to 460 square feet. And you can see this is a typical one bedroom, is about 700 square feet. So we're talking about half that. And some people watching this probably have never lived in that small of a unit and wondering, wait, do people actually want to live in that? Well, it's about alternatives, trade-offs. So if somebody that's in their early 20s, and this is going back to the original design concept of a co-housing and small formats, somebody in their early 20s, right out of college, they're used to dorm life, and they're like, okay, I can live at Main and Main in one of the hottest neighborhoods in town, or I can go 2 miles further east to get a full one bedroom. And a lot of them are choosing location. Younger millennials, Gen Z, and as a millennial myself, thinking back to my early 20s, if I had the opportunity between those two decisions, I totally would have gone location and sacrificed on size. Especially, minimalist mentality. They don't have as much stuff. It's a pretty, I think, easy decision for a lot of younger people to say, I want location, I moved to Austin, I want to be in the mix of the energy and everything that's going on, and I got the best pizza place next door for those late night snacks.
Absolutely. When you're young, it's all about the experiences. So.
Yeah. There are units of this size in the neighborhood, and we've seen the demand is there for them. And there's actually an undersupply. If we go here to this slide, it shows the percentage. And I mean, this is going back to the early 2000s, 1.8% of units were studios. You can see the mix between the 1 bedrooms, the 2 bedrooms, and then the 3 bedrooms. And basically it's increased a little bit, but still it's only 6% are studios. So they're still somewhat scarce in the market. And with the amount of young people that are moving to this city, there's still a lot of demand for location over size.
And when you look at it from an equity standpoint and the revenue that these micro units will generate, you're generating more revenue per square foot on these smaller footprints. And so it makes sense from a lifestyle standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint.
Yeah, and it gives you the flexibility,
right.
Because you can go to short-term rental, or if you decide to go back to long-term rental, you can do that. One thing I like about smaller format units for short-term rentals, as somebody myself that has operated half a dozen short-term rentals at times, is that you have less issues because you're not getting the big party crowds. You're getting smaller groups, and you just have an easier time with that.
Absolutely.
Here's a rendering of one of the interiors. So with the smallest units, the intent is to provide these Murphy bed built-in systems, so that way it gives them the opportunity to have a little bit more space during the day,
right.
Fold down the bed. It's a very efficient way to do things. And there's other countries this is more common,
yes.
and people are used to this. But this is a little bit newer in the U.S. since we tend to like, especially in Texas, where everything's bigger in Texas, we tend to like more space. And this is a newer concept. So here we got some renderings of the complete building. This would be, face the west side of the building. Here's from the front. Here's a rendering of the roof deck, which is going to have a little indoor kitchen, outdoor seating area, and a fabulous view. Here we have the ground floor. You can see across the street, Sork Barbershop, where we're sitting. And this is going to have a coffee area, co-working, just a community area for residents. Here you can see the more precise unit mix and the different square footages of units.
So this video is intended to just be a quick high-level overview of the project. We're super excited about it. You can see the construction is well underway, nearing completion, and we are putting it out there for an investment group, a family office, as you said, that is looking for a unique asset that's going to generate significant cash flow, as well as just being in one of the hottest parts of town and perhaps the strongest local market in the country, Austin, Texas.
If you have any interest at all, please reach out to Lee or myself. We'd love to chat with you more about the project, We can get you an NDA to sign so you can look at the pro forma. From there, we could do a site visit, a hard hat tour, and see if it's a good fit for y'all. Thanks for joining us today. If you got a lot out of this, share the video with a friend, somebody you think that would be interested in this micro unit project, and we look forward to seeing you soon.